Hello and welcome, luminous beings of light. Thank you for joining me here at the SoulFire Alchemist. I'm your host, Dr. Beth. Wanted to come to you today to talk to you about the eclipse energies. The video that I recently put out was about the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction that we're having this month coming up on April 20th. And I mentioned a little bit about the eclipse energies, certainly, because how can you not? They're all connected. But this one specifically is dealing with deeper matters around the eclipse energies and the Sabian symbols for the degree points that we're dealing with, both with the lunar eclipse that we just had on March 25th and the solar eclipse that we're going to be having on April the 8th. So before I delve really deeply into this, I do want to mention that a lot of you have been watching. I've noticed the video that I put up about the Shamanic Fundamentals Masterclass. Now, something that has recently transpired is that I had intended for this to be, when I first started it, a one-time thing, but I realize now it needs to be something that happens at least a quarterly, because it's a prerequisite to entering walking the SoulFire journey, which is a shamanic alchemical path. I call it shamanic astrology, shamanic alchemy. So what we do in that is we're taking the shamanic energy medicine we all now. My brand of shamanism is Peruvian, Andean, so South American shamanism, blended with some of that of the native North American. Also, I have had study in Celtic and Norse shamanism, and I pull in elements of that. And I pull in more elements of shamanism all the time as I'm introduced to it and learn more about it. I've had a lot of masters and teachers who have studied with multiple cultures when it comes to shamanism. So shamanism to me, and I think to most people that understand it, understand that the word shamans is new, right? Shaman is new. It's not been around for that long. In fact, a famous anthropologist whose name escapes me in the moment came up with that, not long ago. It's been within the last 150 years. And he came up with that term when he was studying Siberian shamans and different medicine men and women of cultures. That's what anthropologists do, is study the ways of life of different cultures and indigenous people. So that's a more modern term. And so, many modern day true indigenous medicine people do not like the term shaman. They'll just come out and tell you. Some of them don't care. They're just like, I don't care, like whatever you want to call me, because they have a little bit, they're not so wounded about that. They care more about the condition of earth and humanity and our collective ability to get along well so that we can have evolution in the world together and not destroy it or each other, right? So they don't really care. They're just like, okay, well, whatever. But yet I'm a medicine woman or man. And that is what I am. I'm a medicine woman. Now, I hail from Appalachia. I'm still there. So for me, I like the term Appalachian folk medicine woman. However, I'm fine with the word shamanism because it doesn't bother me. So if it's something that bothers you and your sensitivities, soften those up a little if you can. And if it's too much for you, I get it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. We don't all have to be. We can agree to disagree. The point is that we don't get violent. That's something that we got to work against, is violence, in my opinion. To the greater degree for the collective, again, so that we don't destroy ourselves, right? So for the greater good. All right, so I want to mention one more thing about the masterclass. So the next one coming up is going to be on May 5th. So far, I have had a lot of interest and plans to do another one on May 5th because there was some people both that didn't get to come and who wanted to register, but yet didn't really get to come and register to begin with for the one that we had in March. So being that we're right, coming off of all these powerful eclipse energies, I'm coming off of this big, gigantic conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus, and it's conjunct my Jupiter return. There's so many shifts and changes happening. I mean, we've been undergoing it for a while, and that's the story of life. However, these are really big changes on the axis of me and we, which is the Aries and the Libra energy, and shared resources versus that of my own personal resources, right? However you define resources. But we want to get into the deeper meaning of life, and that's what I do as an alchemist. And then when you come to these fundamental classes, you're being introduced to what I call the SoulFire holographic wheel of life. This is a term that came to me through a vision. Wow, it's when I was on my little walkabout in Hermitage over the last few years when you guys saw me go MIA. And getting my doctorates in studying herbology and, finishing up astrological apprenticeships and all these things. Boy, I tell you, after the near-death experience that I had 11 years ago, sometimes the filaments that I have connected with oneness, they reactivate in a major way. And so they end up really coming through my dreams and my visions. And so one night I had my notebook. I just have to show you because, show and tell. I'm sorry about my light being so bright. Let me fix that. Shamanic, or the SoulFire holographic wheel of life, came to me, and I wrote it all down in this journal. This is just a little, I've always got at least 5 of these, but at least one that I always keep on me because I never know what visions might come to me. I highly suggest it as a practice if you're somebody who's a visionary, a channel, you have visions, you're able to connect with other energies and bring divine wisdom and knowledge out. Yeah, so let's get back to this idea of study with the masterclass. Okay, I mainly just wanted to give you guys the information that it's going to be on May 5th. I've put links down. You can even go back and watch that video. I might put it in the end card so it pulls it up real easy. If you're interested, register now. I've got the cutoff date set for April 26th. Okay, so one thing that I can assure you about is that it's highly powerful, it's highly life-changing, and students spend anywhere from 8 to 10 hours with me in it, and we do a lot of different things in it. But you can watch that video to find out more. You can also go to the page that I have linked when you click the link to join, and it's like a page that just tells you all about what we do and what all is involved in that sort of thing. So with these eclipse energies, I want to talk about the Sabian symbols. This has been my study of late with the Elven School of Mysteries and James Burgess. You can look up his YouTube channel. We're getting ready to put out a course in magic, mastering magic and the transformation of it and the principles that you have to have. So this really kind of feeds nicely into the talk I'm doing today for you about the eclipse energies and the Sabian symbols involved, especially with that chiron conjuncting it, as many of you out there who follow astrology already know about. So I printed out the astrological chart for what's happening with the eclipse. And normally I would put this up on the screen, but I don't have it up on my screen, but I could do a share screen. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'll see what I can do in the future if you really want to look at the chart. But sometimes it can confuse people and they just want to hear the translation and the energy behind it. And it creates less stress for most people unless you're just a serious student. And I do go into that with my studies. If you decide to sign up for the masterclass, you definitely want to bring a printout of your natal chart. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out to me and send me an email. You can go to astro.com and draw yourself up a natal chart, because I do give very personalized attention in these. And it's a great value for what it is. And yeah, so all right, so the Libra eclipse that we had was at 5 degrees and 7 minutes of Libra. Now, if you look at the Sabian symbol for that degree, we round up. So you're looking at 6 degrees of Libra for the Sabian symbol. And it is about reflection. Okay. And it's so funny to me that the new moon, the full moon eclipse, the lunar eclipse, right? So the moon was what was actually eclipsed. It was a block, a shadow cast by us. And so it's the whole idea kind of, we're in this idea right now as we speak of being in a mirror universe in a very real way. And when you hear me speak about my near-death experience and some of my highly spiritual experiences, you'll hear me talk about the Hall of Mirrors a lot because it's one that I have entered into. And the SoulFire holographic wheel of life that we use in walking the SoulFire journey and in the master classes is one that combines astrology with the shamanic wheel, with the great wheel of the year, right? We're looking at how they move and work and fit together, but we're also bringing in different aspects of things like the shamanic journey, hypnosis, guided meditation for personal change and transformation. These are all things that we use together. And this introduction of the Sabian symbols, I've always had an interest in it, but until I started working with my mentor, I didn't really have a deep understanding of exactly how it could help me understand myself on a really deep level. And so now I've began incorporating this into the SoulFire holographic wheel of life because it's just so perfect to pair the seasonal changes and the things that you study cross culturally, even in paganism, right? We look at the Sabbats and the different times of year, but this falls into Christian holidays. It falls into Jewish holidays. James's system is based in Sufism. So my whole soul path, I'm here to bring together these many ancient wisdoms and bring them together with you. And that, to me, I visualize it as a holographic wheel, a circular. It's not a wheel. There's nothing two dimension about it. In fact, there'd be no way I could tell you how many dimensions there actually are. To the human being, you might as well just say it's dimensionless. So the reflectionary part of the Libra eclipse that we just had on March 25th, the Sabian symbol for that one was ideals of a man abundantly crystallized. Okay. And for those of you that were in the masterclass, because I went over this in detail. Ideals. Okay. Ideals are belief systems of a person. It says a man, but this is just a person. And you could look at it. There's different ways to interpret this, okay? But for now, we're going to look at it as just an individual. The ideals of someone abundantly crystallized. This is about this Sabian specifically in this degree point for the lunar eclipse, focused in a large part on visualization and reflection about what you're visualizing. All right. And how you're going to get what you want. This is the whole idea behind manifestation. When you have specific thoughts that occur to you over and over and over again in your mind, for better or for worse, you're going to get what you want, because we are beings who, like a mirror, it's like a mirror function, as within, so without, as above, so below. That's the way God created things, right? It's in his image. It's in God's image that he created things. So we have to understand the deeper and wider mysteries behind all this stuff. This is why we call it ancient mysteries or ancient wisdom. You become crystallized, like a crystallized being, when you're constantly caught in a pattern of thinking things that you don't want. Horrible things happening in a relationship, bad events happening with your kids. I'm going to use a complete different software if Zoom doesn't start behaving itself, because this is absolutely unacceptable. All right. Forgive me. All right. So Yeah, it's atrocious. So you're going to get what you want. It doesn't matter what you're thinking. So the best way to go about life is in a state of love and beauty and harmony and grace and thinking good things, right? These are things that Jesus talked about. These are things that Jesus talked about, the Beatitudes, right? So, and thinking about that, how can you focus on the good things in life? And if you have a bad event or something that happens to you that doesn't fit in with an idea behind something that you want in life, how can you shift your focus and your perception so that you're actually focusing in your mind, the thoughts in your mind have a transition, and now you're thinking on good things, or you're able to perceive something. Every dark cloud has a silver lining, and it's our job to find it. Now, for the last few days, and Friday specifically, we were at what we call the midpoint. Okay. So if you take a look at those degree points, and especially with the moon, we're at a midpoint. We were at a midpoint. The moon was in Capricorn, but we reached the midpoint between that of the degree happening at 19 or in the Sabian, 20 degrees of Aries, and the 6 degree point of Libra. So we have to look to the path that we're on and what we're being called to do. The Sabian symbol for the upcoming solar eclipse on the 8th is Aries, 19 degrees and 24 minutes, but this is going to be in the Sabian Aries 20. At the same time, we have a conjunction happening with Chiron, and it's not far, it's just within minutes of the same degree point, so I'm not going to call that one out. However, in the Sabian symbol, we're looking at Aries 20 because these planets and points, including the North Node making its transit through, is also conjuncting. It's at 16 degrees and 51 minutes. And so we'll take a look at that point. But first, we're going to look at the Aries Chiron conjunction, give that a little interpretation of what it means as it relates to the Sabian symbol and how it relates to the lunar eclipse we just had and what we're being asked to do. Look at the Sabian symbol involved with both of them and what we're being asked to do. So Aries 20 is a young girl feeding birds in winter. So keep in mind that this Sabian symbol is the same one that you're working with here with Chiron and Aries. Now, if you have your chart, look to the house placement. So for me, for example, it's in my 3rd house where Mercury is retrograde, and it's going to be probably in the same house for you, depending on where it falls. And Mercury retrograde is not far from this, you guys. So in many ways, it's having a conjunction with Mercury retrograde too. And it's really it's harkening back to the eclipse energy of the lunar eclipse in March in Libra, which is about reflection. It's the ideals of a man abundantly crystallized. It's about reflection. After you've crystallized something down into manifestation through your own thought process that has become obsessive, for the better or for worse, you need reflection on that. Why did I create something I didn't want if it's something you didn't want? And you got to realize too that Libra represents your relationships. So this is how have you manifested things in relationships that you don't want, right? And how can you take responsibility for your own mind, Mercury retrograde, your own thought process in these systems, and these pathways and how you're navigating through it? So that's a big question. Now, a young girl feeding birds in winter is where we're heading. This is where this solar eclipse in Aries conjunct Chiron is. This is about seeing life as a constant opportunity to experience love. But it occurs in Aries. All right. So the whole span of Sabian symbols, 16 through 20, for this, according to James, is about attainment. It's about attainment. So if you're not getting what you want, it's really quite simple. How can you attain the things that you want? By choosing, and yes, it's a choice, by choosing to see life as a constant way to experience love, not a constant opportunity, right? No matter what happens, how can you find the good in what's happening? Um, so reflection about what you can attain is the energy that we're in, and Mercury is the mind. So he's going back over these things, like hitting rewind. Well, for you guys my age, right? Or just going backwards. Planet itself's not going backwards. It's the energy of the mind and the thought process and your ability to learn, right? So you're going back to some drawing board, cosmically speaking, to get hindsight and to get wisdom and understand what it is that you need to change so that you can experience more love. And how are you experiencing yourself in relationship to other people, right? So I want to read you a snippet from James's book, right? It's called Sabian Alchemy. And he goes into a little bit more in depth on his channel about these individual symbols. But nature is harsh. People and animals suffer and starve, and they die. Yet without harshness, a compassion could not exist. There would be no place for it. There is no higher purpose than to live life as a constant expression of compassion, compassionate love. This is neither fanciful nor sentimental. That's another talk for another time. It's not fanciful like a romantic or sentimental love, okay? That's not what we're talking about. This is a love that's divine, that has nothing to do with, oh, I love that beautiful background that you have. Well, you like it, but you don't love it. Love is far more divine and higher in resonant frequency than loving something material. Oh, you can have divine love for material objects, right? I love that great mystery creator made this pen and all things that went into it. Maybe it's got a life force essence of its own. Being able to see love in everything, right? You got to be able to, you got to be able to keep some magic for yourself and define what that means to you. I don't care who you are, and I don't care what you believe on this planet, but there's some definition of magic if you're a deep thinker that has something to do with something that happens on a stage show. Is it miracles? Are miracles what you find to be magic? Comes straight from Creator, doesn't it? So the young girl feeding birds in windows, doing it just in the same way that you might feed a beggar on the street. You just do something for somebody because you love them and because it brings you joy. You're not doing it because you want recognition. You're not doing it because you want something else from that person. I mean, I would like to think that when we're doing an act of divine love, that's because we're doing it for our own sense of joy, not because we want something back. If you're giving a gift of any sort or doing something good for somebody, to me, it's the same thing. Doing something good for somebody else is the same thing as a gift. So, in our process of reflection on what we can attain, we're thinking about the higher things in life. I mean, sure, you can manifest the things that you want in life. I mean, I'm manifesting SoulFire Ministries. I'm manifesting Elven School of Mysteries with my mentor and all of my team. Um, I'm manifesting a trip to Ireland to go meet them in August. I'm manifesting, new work again after being gone for so long. I'm manifesting healing after having the second biggest health crisis in my life last year, second only to the one that I had when I almost died 11 years ago. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've been through several of of those. So death and rebirth brings us many things. Suffering brings us many things. And it's an opportunity to understand that we should move through life doing unto others as we would have them do unto us. It's real simple. It's a golden rule. It's called it that for a reason. Now, you're going to hear different things from other astrologers on this matter because Aries is not about necessarily how you can attain anything except for your own ego identity. And Aries can be the most selfish, and it exists for that reason. It's like I talked about in the last video. When you're a newborn baby, that's an Aries energy. When you start anything out anew, that's an Aries energy. It's like the Fool card. It's a new journey. You're going to need the baby food of like, what's the difference between me and the pen? What's the difference between me and the fabric and the wall and the outlets, the electrical socket, right? But you go through that in order to enter the Taurus, which is the second zodiac. And that's, what can I achieve for myself? What do I find value in? What do I love? What's my favorite toy, when we're a child? That's one of the ways it manifests. What's my favorite food? What's my favorite place to be? Do I like it inside or outside? Do I like it better alone or with people? What's my way that I can get something in life when I want it? Do I pitch a temper tantrum? Or do I ask nicely? Right? Those are all Taurus things because it's ruled by Venus. It's about what we love, what we find beautiful and valuable. And then we move on to the third house, which is ruled by Mercury, which is now in retrograde. And it rules the mind. But the third house rules things like Gemini does, neighbors, aunts, uncles, cousins, right? And we learn how to relate to all those people in our young life. Giving you a little short mini astrological lesson here, right, on the zodiac. We won't go all the way around. But, we keep going through the different houses, so to speak, of the zodiac, right? The different signs. And we start learning about our relationship with ourselves and our relationship to other people. And then it becomes about how we do relate to other people all the way till we get to the end at Pisces, and Pisces is the end. And I spoke about that in my last video, 29 Pisces. So go back and watch that one if you didn't. It's a good one. But this energy is like really hitting you as it occurs to the Sabian symbol. You're being asked to reflect on how you give to other people and how you do that despite the suffering that you've been through yourself. The things in life that have made you bitter. Because I'll tell you something from my own personal wisdom, which is all I ever deal out on this channel, is my own personal experience and belief that has come through that. You get bitter or you get better. You can rise to the challenge of your own life, right? I'm a spiritual teacher. I'm going to be teaching about spiritual things. That's just what I do. That's what my experience is. Chiron is about your wounds, right? North node's crossing through this, and the moon is it's the north node of the moon, but those moon energies, right? And this is a solar eclipse. The moon's getting between us and the sun. Fully. It'll take away the sun, which is tied to our our essence, our soul's essence. Okay. For a moment, that light will be doused. Isn't that interesting? And the North Node is at 15 degrees and 97, I believe, minutes of Aries. So you have to take a look at that Sabian symbol too. So if we look at Aries 16, well, actually, we would be looking at Aries 17, which is two prim spinsters turning within to experience our true selves. Remember what I was just talking about with the mirror universe? Well, that's what this is. It's about poise and serenity and the time that you spend in peaceful solitude, how you develop that. I've been through that myself the last few years, is that going deep in my inner self and finding my being alone and away from society, really. I didn't much leave my house. I became a gardener. I really delved more deeply into astrology because gardening taught me more about astrology than any human being could ever. And it really is a pathway. Seclusion is a pathway to develop self-knowledge if you really know how to do it and what you must focus on, and that you have to be utterly true to yourself. So we're not saying serve somebody else and to the detriment of yourself. We're saying, how can you experience love all the time in relationship? Shamanism is all about relationship. You can go back and look at my video I did about a month ago. What is shamanism? So I talk about this. It's all about relationship. It's about reflection. It's about attainment because it's about manifestation, which is, in a sense, and it is actually magic. That's what you're doing. You're using your mind and your imagination to create that which you would like. Right? The alchemy principles come in when you're looking at many different maps and you're putting them together to create a whole picture. You're a holistic person. You're not meant to be broken down into individual parts. You don't work that way. You're an organic being. You move through this 3D energy in a meat suit. But I call you a luminous being of light because you're a multidimensional being of light, of information. Mercury's asking you to go back over your wounds. Have you been wounded when it comes to other people and your relationships? And how can you learn more about yourself? Everybody wants to know about their soul path. And it's my opinion that for most people, we're here to understand ourselves better, who we came in this lifetime to be. And we can't do that without the sun and the moon, nor the other planets, because they're highly helpful. But I would even venture to say the sun and the moon are two of the greatest ways in which we really understand who we are. And I want to give you the 7 keywords of the Elven star system because just hearing them alone is very activating to you. It's a very awakening to you just to hear it. Authenticity, creativity, thanks, goodbye, please, sorry, and yes. So, but we tie those words to discernment, sacredness, and enthusiasm. So, authenticity, creativity, excellence, discernment, sacredness, responsibility, and enthusiasm. Now, those aren't the actual keywords. Those are more about the path workings, right? But yet, we look to the planets in our astrology and our natal chart, and even in the transits to figure out not only who we are in the natal chart, what we come here to be, but also to find out what our path is like. And when we look at the shamanic medicine wheel, we'll get even more information because it's meant to be a life map as well. And when you're going through Mesa building in my program, that I offer, you're going through these steps of learning who you are, who you've been, what you're letting go of, the traumas that you've had, but also the gifts and the grace that come from the trauma that you've been through, and how you can move through the world with your heart and your love fully intact and understand what it really means to love, to find harmony and balance, to find beauty in all things, to not ever let go of your creative self, that sacred wise child, the secret, the shamanic secret to manifestation, another video I did. Right. How not losing your ability to be enthusiastic. Well, when you were a child, were you not being enthusiastic when you were being creative? And weren't you free when you did it? It's all about that. It's all about that. It's about never losing those things. And if you have, how can you rediscover it? So through this lunar eclipse that we had at Libra 6, reflection on ideals of a man abundantly crystallized. It's about your visualization tactics or lack thereof, and then you're going to get what you do or don't want. If you're not paying attention to it, you're going to get all sorts of things you don't want. If you know how to focus on the beauty in life, you'll get what you want. Beauty is love in a way, right? I mean, they're separate things for sure, but one perfects the other. So when in life you can find your place in a space of thinking about how can I attain more of what I want in life through the opportunities that I have to experience love. Well, to me as a shaman, that comes through a lot of different things. It don't have to be relationships with other people. It's nice when it does. It helps the evolution of humanity. But it's nice when it just comes through your relationship to the earth, to the trees, plants, right? Flowers, grass, the trees, my mesa, right? The stones in my mesa, my crystals. So sacred objects, but especially the ones that you find in nature, are of the creator itself. And to me, I find great ability to tune into my inner self, which is the North Node energy right now. I find the ability to find love and beauty and harmony in it because it's such eminent grace for me to be out in nature. I find myself to be whole there. And a natural feeling of love generates from within me, even though I might not be in a relationship or you know, it might, if you're partnered and you're having a hard time in that relationship, just because you're feeling that doesn't mean you can't generate feelings of love from within yourself. It can happen. And everything that has literally been created has been created by you, for you, and through you, as if you think about your higher self and your connection with and to God. But even if you don't identify that and you only identify with Creator as a being who created everything and you're part of that creation, well, is it not your brothers and sisters you're looking at somehow? Human beings are created with divine potential, no doubt. You know, we're sentient and we have the ability to see, hear, feel, sense, and know on an extracurricular level, right? So we have access to things beyond the regular senses of our 3D earth plane. So keep in mind all these things as you go forward into the solar eclipse. There's a lot of people that have fears around it. I don't think that you should be living in a spirit of fear beyond obvious things that might threaten your life. But even then, don't focus on them, right? Focus on a mantra. This one is one I like to use a lot. I am that I am. Hardly one anyone could deny because it's found cross culturally in all scriptures. And it's just a common, universal affirmation, or I would even call it a mantra of sorts that you can say. I am that I am. I has meaning. Am has meaning. And understanding your relationship to that, whatever that is, and all of its forms, and all of its glory, all of its grit, all of its grace, and all of its ugly. That yourself, that I am, that I am. So there's lots of other things to talk about. We've got Venus conjuncting a Neptune at this time as well. And that's very interesting. It happens at 28 degrees. However, the Sabian that we look to for this is 29. And again, this is the prism. For those of you Pink Floyd fans out there, the Sabian symbol for that one. Because these are energies that we're dealing with at the same time. So I'm going to read to you a little about that symbol. All right. So, yeah, Pisces 29. A prism. Seeing God in everything. Now look at where the North Node is. 2 prime Spencers, turning within to experience our true selves. And the one before it is Aries-16, brownies dancing in the setting sun. That's deep mystical resonance with life. It's tuning into nature spirits. So you can look to the Sabian symbol before and after to really get more in-depth meaning as to hindsight and foresight, knowing that whatever is that Sabian in the present, that's what you're in right now, but you have to understand the one before it to get through to the one after it. So seeing God in everything, 2 directions concern us, right? That's the me-we axis. Looking for God, or looking as if through God's eyes. Simultaneously looking for God and looking through God's eyes. I love it. I had to repeat that one. We need reliable values to navigate the stormy waters of life. And what's funny about that is that Neptune represents those stormy waters, but Venus conjuncting it represents the values and love. And they both do in many ways. I consider Neptune sometimes the highest octave or the higher octave of Venus. That's one way you can look at it. Interesting, nevertheless, but it rules Pisces, which is that end. And at 29 degrees, you're coming to the end of that sign. It's right before you enter into the Aries energy, the fresh start. And that's what eclipse energy is all about. Great big endings and great big new beginnings. So what are you ending that you need to reflect upon and go back over to glean from it the gold, so that you can take it forward and be able to attain the things that you want in your relationships and in yourself and on your spiritual journey and in your walk. Okay. So that's what I have for you today. And it's been a little bit longer, but that's all right. For those of you that are here to learn and to listen, I respect the honor, and I thank you for it and for your time, because you're honoring yourself and you're respecting yourself when you show up and you're entertaining things like this for a longer period of time. I know not all of us have a lot of time, but I may split this up into 2 and I may not, but however I choose to do that, you can always come back and finish watching it if you didn't get to. Please sign up for the masterclass, right? That's going to be May 5th. Link below. If you have any questions, shoot me an email, beth@soulfireministries.net. And you can reach my website, beth@bethsoulfire.com. And the old website is still up. It works great. www.soulfiremultiversity. And I will see you on the flip side.